Welcome everybody to this live stream in January. So we're still in January. It's not the first one. We've done a couple. Today we have an exciting tandem of speakers. Um, but I'm gonna just go and jump right in. So hi, my name is Pedro. I'm the manager for advocacy in EMEA and LATAM at Figma. So if you know advocates like Louis, Hugo, Alexia, Laura, Ricardo, I'm just the manager on that group. I've been here for 6 months at Figma, so I'm quite new. I think this is my first live stream, so wish me luck. And a little bit of housekeeping before we start. So the session will be recorded and emailed to you. So we will send you a link sorry, we will send you a link with the recording. Um, there, I think it's there. There's a Q&A button in the tabs that you have, chat Q&A, people surveys. So use that Q&A so I can gather all the questions and keep them safe for Sherizan and Naya. Uh, Friendly reminder, be kind, be cordial. We have this Figma code of conduct that we are very happy and proud. And so, as I said, I'm going to introduce Sherizan and Naya. They have been working in Botim in this super app that basically is all over the Middle East. Probably you've seen some of the posts that they have been publishing. It's very, very exciting. And I'm just going to leave you the mic. So, Sherizan and Naya, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Pedro. And thanks, Figma, for inviting us over. It's really, truly exciting times to be a designer these days, especially with all the development in the AI space. And today we're going to share with you some of our learnings. I would say more practical learnings that you can, bring back to your company and apply straight away. So I'm just gonna dive in. A little bit about Botim. As you mentioned, we are a consumer fintech app, primarily in the Middle East, with about 150 million users. When I joined last year, I had the opportunity to kind of like tear it apart, redesign it, and it's a great opportunity. It usually comes once or twice in a designer's career, so I took it in, and we did the design system from scratch. We did the branding and all that. So we were pretty proud that it finally went out last year, I think August. So it's only been for a few months. But with AI in the picture, things did not go as planned. So let's see. When after we finish our project, we go back to our BAU, right? Every 2 weeks or every month we would have a new feature or new product that we were going to launch. We do the usual things. We put the designs together, we put the flows together, we use our new design system, end-to-end designs, 100% components. My designers were happy. They marked it as ready for dev, and they shipped it away. But few moments later, our engineers or front end engineers or even mobile engineers came back and say, "Hey, your designs are not AI ready." And this was, I think, a few months ago. So we were stumped. Like, "Oh, what do you mean? Like, what do you mean our designs are not AI ready?" So apparently, our engineers have moved really far, right, and really fast with the development of Cursor and all this AI assisted coding. The expectations for these tools are also very high. It's the one-shot prompts, putting your screens and getting everything pixel perfect was probably the benchmark. So as designers, we were pretty dumbfounded. So what did we do? We went back to basics. We looked at our files, we looked at our layers, the nightmares that we have, looking at frame 1086611 in every project. Was talking to the engineers and figuring out like, okay, what do we need to do to get it AI ready? And back then there wasn't any information. Nobody was really doing it. So we had to figure out ourselves, and we did the basic things, like, okay, let's start renaming these layers. Especially Figma had this cool feature, like, just drag them and click a button and it starts to name the layers. And the engineers tested it and they were like, okay, this is fine, but it's still generating a lot of noise. It's still generating code that is really not production level. And when you look at how the engineers are doing it, it's still the same, right? If you look at the video that's playing here, they just go to Figma, they go screen by screen, they copy it and they paste it there and say, build me the screen. So obviously, it's when you do that, it's an image, it's flat image that does not have any context of your design. So there was one part when we looked at our projects, our Figma files with the naming and the layers. And then we looked at our design system itself. So on the left, we have our design component. And on the right, we have our component library, which is what the engineers are using. And they are actually not in sync. So our design components on Figma, they are actually not, I would say, I wouldn't say advanced, but they are just not on par. So when there are designs that are not part of the component, the engineers actually do it from the code side. So there's already like disparity that we have to fix. And this is just one example of a button component. And like I said, the developers were moving faster than design. The expectation is getting higher and higher. The 2 week sprint, people wanted features to be out within weeks. Sorry, they wanted to be out in days and not weeks. So we were trying to figure out like how to unblock this, because it was starting to be more and more apparent that design was starting to be the blocker. And after all our cleanup, we went back to our design system. We made sure our code components are also the same. Whatever you see in our Figma should be the same as our code components. But our developers still struggle with getting to the right state, especially when they use Figma MCP. So they still, it can generate 80% of the time, but after the 20% is where they still have to go back and iterate and change the UI, and that's takes them a lot of effort and wasted a lot of time. And the current tools like Cursor and Claude, they aren't accurate enough to generate production ready code, especially even when we use Figma MCP. So that's where we thought to ourselves, like, okay, what are the other solutions out there? Like, obviously, there's only Figma MCP, and we have our code component. But I think the missing layer was the complete mapping, right? That bridge between our designs and our code. And that's where I stumble upon Figma Code Connect, which acts as the bridge between your code base and actually Figma dev mode. So they connect the components through the repository. And to me, as a designer, it was very technical. So I thought, like, okay, I'm not gonna, dive into this. But the more I started to research on it, the more I start to understand, like, okay, this actually could be the answer, especially when we go to the future of generative UI, where I, as a design leader, cannot be reviewing every single designs anymore. That future will come soon, and I cannot be that gatekeeper who keeps manually reviewing designs. There should be a process where I trust my design system. Whatever that is in the design system is exactly what we will see in production. So Figma Code Connect was what we thought was the answer. So the past couple of months, we actually spent time. We get all the resources together from engineering, from leadership, to really experiment and to see if this is the answer for us. And this is where I will pass or hand it over to my colleague Naya, where she'll talk about the new workflow. Hi Naya, I think you're muted. Please unmute.
I'm so sorry.
All right.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much, Sherizan. Hi, everyone. So, taking it forward. So, we stepped back and asked ourselves, what would it actually look like to build it, build our workflow in an AI first way? And not just using AI as a helper tool, but fundamentally designing our workflows around AI agents as core team members. And that's where our vision became this, that AI powered development from PRD to production. And we had our pillars. So let me break them down for you. Intelligent agents. We wanted AI that truly understands our product requirements and our design systems, and not just generate some code that looks similar, but uses our actual components with the correct props, patterns, and architecture. And that's where Code Connect came in play. And we deep dive into this a bit later, but it was that bridge that connected our designs in Figma to our production code. And it is what made AI smart about our design systems. And finally, automated pipelines. The end goal for us is a flow where a product manager writes a PRD, designers design based on the PRD, and this entire design PRD flows through an AI assisted development tool, and it lands in production with minimal manual intervention. Um, does it sound ambitious? Absolutely. Impossible? We don't think so. And this is where we are headed, and Code Connect is a critical part in getting us there. For those who aren't familiar with Code Connect, it's a feature from Figma that allows you to link your Figma components directly to your production code. And yeah, so we'll be taking a look at it through a demo. So as you see, I've just uploaded a PRD onto Cursor and it's scanning through my PRD. And yeah, so once it reaches the stage where it has all the Figma links, it will get the design context from Figma. So it's running get design context. It got my Figma screens, and it can even get the code connect mapping. So these screens have been code connected, the components on the screen. So it can get each and every component that is connected on these screens. And yeah, so moving ahead a bit. Sorry. Is it running? Sorry, it's stuck. Yeah. So yeah, it could read everything. So now taking a look at our PRD, we have defined it in the similar way that we do PRDs. But what we are doing different is we are adding references to different components that are being used. We are adding our Figma link, and this is how our cursor is able to read through each and everything. And if you look at our Figma files, you can see each component is connected, and we have different properties that are being passed, and it's using our code system basically to fetch all the code. So yeah, following this. We do have rules set up for a lot of things. So it does try to keep the code clean and minimal, and it does iterate based on those rules. So at first you'll see a lot of divs, but then it focuses on cleaning it up. And yeah, so we have defined some rules and regulations for Cursor to implement when developing, and it's using all of our components from our design system. It will come to the output in a bit. So it took me around 10 minutes to develop 5 screens from the PRD, and they are functional screens. So once you see the prototype, you'll get an idea. I've cut short the demo, not showing the entire 10 minutes, but yeah. So it will.
Yeah, I just want to add as well, like when we got together, the team to experiment, the way our product managers write PRDs now have changed as well, so that we can quickly feed it into the what we call the AI system, so that from PRD it's AI ready, designs are AI ready, because that future we want to target is where we can build within days, not weeks.
Yeah, so this was what was generated. You can see it does match quite accurately. There are still some gaps. We are not yet 100% accurate, but yeah, it was able to get the functionality for each component as well. Even the radio buttons here are functional. So yeah, so we were able to implement it quite successfully. Around 90% accuracy was what we achieved. And we were also able to get our Lottie animations linked as well. So yeah, so there were quite a lot of challenges. There was a huge journey that we went through, and it was not very simple. But I've broken down our journey in 3 simple steps. But there were a lot of phases that we went through. But the biggest phase was our design and dev cleanup. So we cleaned up our design system, we refactored our dev library, and the reality was that when we started looking at it, there were a lot of inconsistencies. Components were named differently in Figma versus code. There were duplicate elements. There was technical debt. And we couldn't map a messy system. So we had to go in and clean up our design system and dev systems. And yeah, so we resolved a lot of these inconsistencies. We created a single source of truth. And this was not just for designers and developers, but also for AI to understand. Um, so yeah, this was the most foundational work. It was unglamorous, but absolutely critical. And that led us to component mapping. So we have 32 core components, and we connected all 32 core components. And these were the building blocks for our entire UI.
Yeah.
Basically, all the buttons, inputs, cards, etc.
I just want to shout out to our designers at Botim, Elaine and Chahao, if you are listening in. Thanks for doing all the cleanup. I think it took us a good weeks to kind of get together and clean up, and with the development support as well. I think that's the key to a successful like AI workflow, is getting your designers and engineers in one room and on the same goals. Um, I just want to add as well, like we did a hard cut off of the component mapping. We have hundreds of components, right? Like many of you all do, but we were very strict in stopping designers from creating new components. We have the golden number of 32. I think with that 32 core components, we were able to design at least 95% of any screens that we need. Obviously, if there's completely 0 to 1 products, we will need new UI and new components, but that rarely happens. So I think the rule here as well, if you really be strict with your components, never always create new ones. So I think it will be easy to manage.
Yeah, agreed. So yeah, each component required very careful mapping because we had to document each property variance and how they should be used. So hats off to our design system engineers and everybody involved. We were able to successfully do that. And yeah, we had to implement and iterate along the process. We conducted tests with actual development work, building mini programs, features, screens, and we compared it to our designs and tried to measure accuracy, and then iterated, looked at what worked, what didn't, where did AI struggle, which components it wasn't able to pick properly. And yeah, this continuous iteration is what was helping us to build our accuracy. So yeah, moving on, let's take a look at our files. So coming to our design system on Figma, I'm just showing some parts of our design system for today. So we, just like how Sherizan had earlier showed a button component, we have multiple different variants of our button component. So we have the normal button, FAB, text button, icon button, which was all defined, and we have the component here with different variants, primary, primary danger, secondary danger, and we even have our configurable properties. So basically the properties that can be changed by designers during the usage in their designs. Different UI details, dark mode, size limits, some restrictions, and like RTL mode. Since we are in the Middle East, we also have an RTL version of our app. So yeah, and some samples. Just this was mainly for designers, and we have all these different variations. But then when it comes to developers, we had a different system, and we tried to revamp this as well and create something more standard so that could be used by everybody in the company, in this team. Just some overview, specs, basically the same things that we saw, the different tokens layer constraints, the configurable properties, and guidelines, just like what we had earlier. And yeah, a playground for anyone to experiment how a different button would look like. So yeah, this was how we moved ahead. And coming to the code connection part, if you see, the button component has been connected, and what goes in play is basically in the dev files in our code base. We have to do one-to-one mapping. So now button had different variants, like it had default, FAB. So each one was linked to different variants, but there were common properties that we were using for each variant. So we didn't create a variant for every button type. So we don't have a button, then we don't have a component for FAB button. It reuses the same button component with just variant as FAB. So this was how we did it, and we were able to successfully connect it with our code bases. And now if you select any button, you will be able to see the different properties. If it is primary danger, even the text can be grabbed from, you can get the activate your wallet and the icons and everything. So this is what we were trying to achieve. So
I just want to add
coming,
something as well. Like I think when we were pitching to our engineers as well, Code Connect, they didn't really get it at first. They thought AI is gonna write their code, their existing code. So, for example, the button props that they have written in React, they have all of that hosted on GitLab. All of the components as well, obviously in the code component library. So I think after we explain to them, it's purely mapping whatever the existing code components they have. We map it to the actual design component on Figma, and that's where I think it started to be a little bit more clearer. And the cleanup did happen, but it's more around what is missing from our side, because maybe from engineering side they have additional props that we didn't really consider, or additional variants. So those are the cleanup work that Naya was also mentioning in the beginning.
yeah. So basically, just another example of a text field. So in our text field, we did have multiple nested properties as well. And this was one of the areas where we did have a challenge on how to configure nested properties. There were documentations, and we did go through all the Figma documentation, and this did take us a lot of time. But once we got a hang of the code connections, we were able to do it quite quickly. And yeah, there are different properties that you can pick from code. So we have nested properties, string, boolean, etc. And this is what it looks like when you come to Figma's code component. And this is what will be read by your developers or your AI agent. So it's not creating something from scratch, but using your dev libraries. So yeah, this path was not just a direct path. We did face quite a lot of challenges, and some of the challenges that we conquered were that we cleaned up our entire design system and refactored our dev library. We tried to standardize everything before we could even start mapping. So this helped us go through everything properly, clean up things, and be able to match them one to one. Next, we built the right team. We found people who understood our vision. So we were able to explain and get the right people on board on seeing what the future looked like for us. And that's how we got people who understood design systems, who understood components, architecture, and how AI agents work. And yeah, we have a really amazing team on board now. Then we learned Code Connect. We actually went through learning it, and there were no tutorials, to be honest, no blog posts, no Stack Overflow accounts or answers to our queries. But yeah, we did figure out things that no one else had figured out yet, and we made a lot of mistakes. We learned from them, and we kept iterating. So yeah, one of our biggest achievements was learning the whole process. And despite all the AI and automation, Code Connect is quite manual. You have to go into the code base. You have to do one-to-one mapping for props and everything. There is a UI for Code Connect, but it's just to link your GitHub components to your components, but you have to get into the code base. And it is quite methodical, and it is a bit time consuming. But once you get a hang of it, you can do it quite quickly. So yeah, coming to what our future looks like, our future is multi-platform, and Code Connect is just getting us started. We solve for web, 32 components done, React and Vue ready, but Botim isn't just a web app. We are on iOS, Android, and we have a complex backend. So the vision is to have one design system for every platform. And yeah, so our next steps are to extend Code Connect to iOS and Android. So we haven't completely finished the whole implementation journey yet. We are still in the process. And yeah, so what does it mean for us? What's the impact of expansion to native is we will have true cross-platform design system. So there's no more of that. This looks different on Android or this looks different on iOS, and we just try to have more consistency everywhere. We want to look into how API and data layer integration can happen, because right now AI is great at UI. It's generating beautiful user profile components. It can connect the components to the right UI components, but we want to see how it can connect to the right API endpoints, and can it handle logging states, error states, empty states, and yeah, just see how we can extend to API contracts, data schemas, state management patterns, and bring in the entire workflow to handle that. And what would that mean for us is full stack AI agents and not just UI generation. So complete feature implementation. Then we are looking into real-time validation as well. So having live preview of AI-generated code with instant design comparison, getting visual regression checks and QA validations done right into the flow. And we are targeting for something 95% above accuracy. And if we can validate instantly, we can iterate faster and achieve even higher accuracy. And finally, all of this brings us to our biggest step is PRD to production pipeline. So we can complete the whole automation from PRD designers creating mockups to using that and feeding it to an AI agent that reads both and generates both backend and front end. And it does run tests and runs validations and creates a pull request. So finally, all developers have to do is review and approve and ship. So just trying to achieve the full automation. And yeah, it would impact 80% workflow automation for us. That brings about for me. I'll hand it over to Sherizan.
All right. I think we have a couple minutes left. And I know we were supposed to share some of our Figma Make explorations as well. I think what I want to do here is to give you an example of how we do it. I think what I'm about to share is a little bit technical and advanced, so I apologize. We've gone past the the stage where we've done let me backtrack a little bit. I think Figma Make, when I looked at the usage the past 3 months, it has been a very product manager tool, right? A lot of our product managers have been using it um, uh, very early when they're scoping out their PRD, and also for engineers to estimate. So that's all good, and that's how they've been using it. But what I'm sharing with you is something that how I or how me and my team run design reviews that connects the PRD, our research findings, and the Figma flows all together. And we let the AI agent to kind of sanitize all of that into a design review form that includes Figma Make prompts as well. And then that Figma Make prompt has actually the solutions based on all the artifacts that we've shared. So maybe I'll just give you a quick preview of that. Let me share my screen. Right. So, for example, when our PMs produce some the PRD, right, we actually put it in a place, or we use actually cursor for that. It's actually just a markdown file, or I can preview it. For example, it's our gold and silver investment PRD. Again, we've removed all the sensitive data. It's basically a lean version of our PRD that has all the flows and all the key metrics and objectives. And let's say this project is an existing project and it's gone through some kind of usability testing as well. And our researcher has come back with an actual usability testing report with 5 participants, and he has given us some of the success criteria and all the findings. So I dumped it in a research markdown, and I have my PRD markdown. And this is where I put the proposed designs by my designer. So, for example, here I just put the link of that gold and silver investment. And then what we did was pretty much using cursor to run a review. So I have my own prompt that runs the PRD and runs the Figma link through Figma MCP, and also the research. And what it does is actually, after the review is completed, it gives me this amazing document that actually covers all the necessary information that I wouldn't have seen, right? So, for example, it's covered these features. Some of the things that was discussed in the PRD is missing in the designs. It even gives you some of the states that are missing: empty state, loading state, error state. So this was really great. It's like a more of complete view. So how does it connect to Figma? Because at the end, it gives you a Figma make prompt. Let me just go down here somewhere that I could just copy and paste to my Figma make, and it will give you all the solutions. So let me just change my view as well. So if you look on the right, this is actually the prompt that it generated by reading through the PRD, then the research and the Figma flow. And it generates all the different missing states that it was recommending. If it's loading, let me see. Demo. It should load. Come on. Okay, let me close this and come back to it. There we go. So it generates all the solutions that was missing from the designs, and you can actually take a look at it. For example, rate timeout was in the PRD but was not in the designs, and it even gives you the solution. So as a designer, you can actually have this as like your companion. You put your PRD, you put your Figma link, and then you just run that on cursor. It gives you a prompt. You put the prompt in. Again, this is a bit manual because we don't have the API yet. You put in the prompt exactly what it was given, and it gives you all the exact states that you are missing from your designs. So it's something that we do before you go into like a design review, so that your designs are all polished and not missing any edge cases. So that was one of the examples that we have. And the other thing that we could do is also running a automatic prompt from cursor, and it automatically pins all the comments on the screens that will give you all the necessary findings, whatever that comes from cursor. So those are the kind of things that we did on Figma Make. Um, a lot of that tutorial is actually on our design.aistack.com. It gives you a full breakdown. I wish we have more time to cover it, but I hope you can read up more on it on our website. So that's all we have for you today. Maybe we can invite Pedro. Are you back?
I am here.
Perfect.
Hey, everyone.
Much
Um,
questions.
so we have a bunch of questions. This is super amazing. Some of those questions you have already answered. So I'm gonna be picking some that I think can benefit from some uh, re-explanation. So one of the questions is, did you redesign the components or rebuild the ones from the code base to perfectly match one both in Figma and in the code base?
I can take a stab at that, Naya, but please chime
Yeah.
in. The when we did the analysis, our code components were ahead; they were more accurate, and our Figma components were missing a few things. So, and also we didn't want to, so-called waste engineers' effort to do that. So what we did was cleaning up from the Figma side.
Yeah, so we tried to bridge the gap between both design and code base. There were discrepancies in both sides. So it didn't involve just one system to be redesigned or rebuilt. It involved both of them parallelly getting upgraded basically to match. And we had to depreciate a lot of things as well as we went along, uh, just to put a lock on our design system so that we don't go outside of what we have in design.
Cool. Um, there is one question that had the most upvotes there. You explained some of it, but I think maybe bringing it like super concrete answer to this question could be amazing. Please define AI ready. You know, when you started talking, uh, you were talking about the need to be AI ready. Could you maybe go deeper into what does it mean?
Because I think these of course our engineering counterparts they speak different languages than us. When they say AI ready, it's not like our it's not because our Figma has unnamed layers or ghost variants, and they're not talking about visuals, right? I think what they're talking about is whether your design can be reliably interpreted, transformed, machine readable, because at the end of the day they are all data points, they're all JSON at the back of it. So can it be translated, in that sense? Can it be translated into a structured data, and less like an image? That's what at least our engineering counterparts have told us.
Cool. Another question, I think, especially for you who have this super app that is used basically everywhere in the Middle East, how do you organize design systems components and tokens for a multi platform app? I think it's particularly sorry, just to finish that, but I think it's particularly interesting to also understand the layer of how AI understands the multi-brand context. Could be amazing. Yeah.
That is a good question. There's what I can see is from a token side, it's actually quite fairly straightforward. The component side as well, especially with Code Connect. I think if you use Code Connect, and it supports multi-platform as well, not just web. We can also do native, because our native engineers will have their own repo of the components. Tokens is also the easy part. You're dealing with like colors, all the semantics, um, border radius and things like that. So that is very easily shippable to different platforms. I think what is going to be a challenge, and we are still figuring out, is the constraints, right? So for example, like an iOS behaves differently than an Android. How do we get that constraint to that platform specific level, so that it works with, with an iOS app and with an Android app, or with with a web app. So I think that constraint part is missing, and we're trying to figure out how do we get that constraint baked in. So for example, like today, everybody has a design system website, and it's all documents, right? Like if you go to the button component, it says do's and don'ts. It's actually for us to read, or for the engineers to read, like, okay, do this but don't do that. I think we need to get, those are the constraints, so we need to get that constraints out into AI, so that when the engineers build in different platforms, the constraints come in and say like, hey, you cannot put two primary buttons together. That's bad UX, right? I think we haven't solved that yet, but we are optimistic there's an answer for that.
So basically, for design system components for multi-platform, we won't be changing our design system components. We will be just linking it to different systems for now. Like we were able to successfully do it for Stencil, Vue, and React, and now we are looking into how we would do it for native platforms.
Sorry, little mic problem. Thanks for the answer. Um, I You mentioned the components, you mentioned the visual aspect. There is one question about animations. Do you integrate them, and how do you integrate them? And I think could be also super interesting to hear if you give any animation guidelines to the AI so they respect those parameters.
Okay. Do you want me to take that?
Yes, please.
Okay. So currently, what we are doing for animations is we are using Lottie JSON animations, and we are connecting each of these files to their counterpart in design. So in design, we are just keeping it as a GIF or a static component, and we are just linking the components, all the illustrations that have an animation to their respective .json files. So yeah, that's the whole plan for code connection with animations.
Cool. Um, oh, there's another one that is interesting to me. So there is one question about how do you try have you tried Figma Make for some cases? I think that the answer is yes, you mentioned it. But the sub question there says, if yes, have Code Connect had any effect on the output?
Have you tried if code connect? Oh, we actually haven't gone to that level yet, which actually I'm looking forward to it as well, Naya.
Yeah.
Because I think one of the things that we did was to redo it on Figma. So, for example, all the components we have to rebuild it in Figma Make, and then send that each component to a separate GitHub file. Once our code component is done or code connect is done, we actually should link it with Figma Make so that whenever we want to build new prototypes on Figma Make, it will be 100% accurate. And I think the new future that we are also looking forward to is, and I'm hearing it on the ground, is that we build like amazing prototypes, but it's not good for handing over. Our engineers still want flat screens, right? Flows. So this is a big question mark right now. We're trying to figure out how do we resolve that as well.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
I know we can connect our design system through GitHub. So once your GitHub is linked to your Figma, and it has the same component library in it, then it will be able to get the components from there. But since we are not using GitHub at our company, we are trying to figure out a different solution to it. So we will in the future plan to integrate our dev library into Figma Make.
just before, sorry, um, just before going to the next question, I just want to mention that you're gonna see a little survey for all participants. These are very helpful for us. Um, it's gonna appear in the survey section. Wait, my finger is that way. Um, of your screen, and it is very helpful for us to know how to improve this webinar. So if you take the time, we're gonna keep answering a couple more questions. Um, there is one that is very interesting, especially for me, is uh, was the front end code, wait, it moved, sorry, built uh, using purely AI, no human managing the CSS, or is there a mix of humans and AI in the construction of the code specifically?
You want to take that, Daya? At least from your the
Uh,
because yeah,
so, is this regarding the demo or uh, purely?
I think
I mean,
like from your demo that we showed, the code is actually from our existing code. So AI is a, or in this case cursor, is just orchestrating and putting things together from our code component. So I think nothing, like to Naya's point, we are 95% there, means 95% is already existing code from code component, and then the other 5% is where AI came in and like, hey, we are adding, this layout here because we couldn't figure out what's your layout or what's your padding. I think those are still the discrepancies, but 95% of the code that you see in our designs are all existing code from our engineers.
Yeah, we do have to manually tweak a bit of CSS at times if there is some gap in our components. But as far as I've seen till now in the demos, it's coming quite accurate.
Okay. Um, and I'm gonna take one last one. Um, oh yes. So no, you mentioned this one about the PRDs being linked. So now maybe this is interesting. The links that you show in the PRDs were these links to frames specifically, or to
Yes.
components, or a mix of both?
Specifically to the frame. So the frames that I showed you earlier in the demo, which I went through each component to show the code connected section, but the whole frame is the link that we paste. And each page is explained on how the flow works. So in the PRD, let's say a button, when you click, I was showing you add funds flow. So if you click on add funds button, it should go to the add funds page. So you paste the link for the next screen as a separate section. And that's how the PRD was created with all the interactions.
Okay, cool. Um, I don't know if you see my screen. Uh,
Hmm.
okay, cool. So I'm gonna take us home. So first of all, Sherizan, Naya, thank you so much for the whole explanation. I've been waiting a long time for this one since I heard people talking about what your folks are doing there, and I was so excited about this one. This is why I volunteered to MC this one. I didn't want to miss it. Um, Also, where's my screen? Here. So we also have some AI design trend reports that are coming out, or rather are already there. So if you want to continue the conversation, if you want to continue knowing more about this, please check this out. I'm leaving enough time here just so everybody to screenshot that QR code, but don't be afraid. We're gonna send the link, so you're gonna have it anyway. Um, we have some future events. Just check them in figma.com/events. If you have an idea, we are more than happy to hear ideas for new events. And even tomorrow, we have another one about the business value of design systems that is going to be hosted by Louis, who's an advocate in our team. And this is a report that we that we build. So tomorrow, I also put that little QR code there. Maybe it's too small, but I put a QR code there for the landing page so you can join and subscribe. And thank you so much, everybody. Thank you, Sherizan. Thank you, Naya. And yeah,
Thank you, Pedro, for having us as well. Thank you,
Thank you so
everyone.
much. Thank you, everyone.
thanks.